The threatening princess. The grand hall of the alien palace was filled with golden light. Strange crystals glowed from the walls. Tall armored guards stood in silence, and the crowd of alien nobles watched from every corner, all eyes locked on the center of the hall where a single human soldier stood in chains, his head raised, his body straight, his eyes calm. Before him stood the alien princess, tall and elegant, her skin shimmered with silver tones, her eyes like burning stars, and her crown of living metal twisted and moved as if alive. She carried herself with the power of someone born to rule empires. She looked down at the soldier as if he was nothing more than dirt on her boots. The silence was broken when her voice echoed across the hall. Sharp and cold, her words cut like blades. Human. Kneel before me. Kneel, or I will kill you where you stand. Her tone carried no doubt. No weakness, no hesitation. The entire court leaned forward, waiting for the human to break, waiting for the fear to appear in his eyes. But the soldier did not kneel. He did not bow, he did not beg. Instead, he smiled, a slow grin that spread across his face, his calm eyes never leaving hers. His voice was quiet but steady. No, he said, simple, sharp, final. The court gasped. The sound rolled through the hall like thunder. Alien nobles whispered in shock. Some laughed nervously. Others hissed in anger. No human had ever dared speak to the royal blood in such a way. And yet this one did, chained, surrounded, hopeless. He still refused. The princess's eyes narrowed. Her fury burned brighter. You dare defy me, she said, her voice rising. Do you know who I am? Do you know what I could do to your fragile body in a single breath? The soldier tilted his head, still smiling. I know who you are, he answered, his voice calm, almost playful. You are a princess of a dying empire. And you are afraid. The hall fell into silence again, colder and sharper than before. The guards shifted uneasily. The nobles whispered louder, but the princess stood frozen, her pride stung, her power questioned. Her hand twitched toward the blade at her side. Her crown pulsed with light as if feeding on her anger. Afraid? She repeated, her voice trembling with rage. You think I fear you, human? You are a prisoner, a toy, a nothing. The soldier leaned forward in his chains, his grin never fading, his voice steady. If I was nothing, you would not need to make me kneel. You would not need to threaten me. You would simply crush me where I stand. But you want me to bow, you want me to break, and that means you fear what happens if I don't. For a moment, the hall was heavy with silence. Every alien present felt the tension. The human's words spread like fire, too bold, too dangerous, yet impossible to ignore. The princess's breath grew sharper. Her fury clashed with something else inside her, something she did not want to admit. The court erupted with laughter then, nobles mocking the soldier, guards tightening their grips, voices rising in cruel amusement. The human thinks he is strong. They laughed. The human thinks he has power. Their words echoed around the chamber, drowning the silence, but the soldier's grin only grew wider. The princess lifted her hand, and at once the hall fell silent again. She stepped closer to the human, her crown glowing brighter, her eyes narrowing. She stood so close that he could feel the cold of her presence. You are brave, she whispered, though her tone was sharp with poison. But bravery without wisdom is death, and I will end you if you do not kneel. The soldier stared at her, unblinking, his voice low but strong. Then kill me, princess. But I will not kneel. Her heart skipped, her mind froze for half a second. She expected him to beg, to cry, to tremble, but instead he offered death with a smile. His calmness felt like a weapon sharper than any blade. Her pride demanded she strike him down. Her heart whispered something else, something dangerous. The nobles shouted, Kill him! End this insult! Show the strength of the crown. Their voices pushed her toward action. Her guards shifted, ready to drag the human away, ready to spill blood across the shining floor. But still she hesitated, her eyes locked on the grin that refused to fade. In that moment, she realized something she hated, something that unsettled her. She had the power to kill him, yet it felt as if she was the one trapped, as if his defiance had chained her pride, as if her victory would not be victory at all, but a confession that he had touched her deepest fear. The soldier saw it too. His grin widened just slightly as if he understood the battle. Now was not chains and swords, but pride and fear, and somehow, though he was the prisoner, he was winning. The princess took a deep breath, her crown flickering with restless light. She forced her voice steady. Very well, human, if you will not kneel. Then you will be tested, and when you break, when you fall, you will wish you had obeyed me. The guards moved forward, pulling the soldier away. But his eyes never left hers, his grin never faded, and the court whispered in unease, some with laughter, some with fear. The echo of his refusal hung in the air like a storm waiting to strike. The princess turned away, her steps sharp, her heart burning with confusion, anger, and something more dangerous. For the first time in her life, someone had refused her command, and for the first time, she wondered if perhaps her empire was not as unshakable as she believed. And so the game began. The princess with her pride, the soldier with his grin, and the galaxy watching in silence. The grinning soldier. The guards dragged the soldier through dark halls made of black stone, their steps heavy, their armor clanging like iron bells, the chains on his wrists cut into his skin. Yet he did not cry out. He did not stumble. Instead, he walked tall, his smile still carved on his face like a challenge, as if every step was his choice, not theirs. The alien guards glanced at one another uneasy, for they had carried many prisoners through these halls, and all of them had begged, screamed, or wept, but never had they carried one who grinned, as if the chains were made of silk, as if the threat of death was nothing more than a game. They threw him into a chamber, the door slammed shut. The echo shook the walls. He was alone now, yet his grin did not fade. Instead, he leaned back against the cold stone, his eyes sharp and alive, his mind replaying the princess's fury, her demand, her hesitation. He had seen it, that brief flicker of doubt in her eyes, and that was worth more than freedom. For hours he waited, silent, steady, until the door opened again, and a figure entered, not a guard this time, but a tall noble cloaked in shimmering fabric. His skin pale and his eyes narrow, he looked at the human with a mix of disgust and curiosity. "You are either brave or foolish," he said, his voice like oil. "To smile at death, to spit at our princess." The soldier tilted his head, his grin widening. "Bravery and foolishness often look the same," he replied. "The difference is who tells the story in the end," the noble sneered, his lips curling. "You think there will be a story, human? You think your kind will be remembered? You are dust in the void, slaves of history. Your fate is already written." The soldier leaned forward, his chains rattling, his voice sharp. "Then why are you here, noble, wasting words on dust? Why do you not ignore me if I am nothing? Perhaps it is because you know the truth. You fear the story I will tell." The noble flinched, just slightly, his cloak shifting as he turned away. "Your words mean nothing," he spat, yet his quick steps betrayed unease. The door slammed again, leaving the soldier alone, but not defeated. That night in the silent chamber, memories stirred in his mind. Memories of Earth, of wide skies filled with stars, of battles fought not for empire but for survival, of friends who had fallen yet never begged, never knelt. He remembered their laughter even in the darkest moments, and he carried that laughter now, that spirit, that unbreakable will. By morning, the chamber opened once more, and this time it was the princess herself, her steps light yet sharp, her crown glowing faintly, her eyes colder than before, though inside her mind still burned with the image of his grin. A grin she could not erase. "You will explain yourself," she said, her voice commanding. "Why do you smile when death stands beside you? Why do you mock my power?" The soldier lifted his eyes, meeting hers without fear. "Because power is not in crowns, nor in swords, nor in chains," he said calmly. "Power is in will, and my will is stronger than your empire." Her eyes narrowed. Her pride struck again. "A bold claim for one who is my prisoner," she said, her words cutting like knives. The soldier chuckled softly, the sound echoing against the stone walls. "Prisoner? Perhaps in body, yes, but not in spirit, never in spirit. You can chain my hands, you can break my bones, but you cannot make me kneel, and that is why you are afraid." The princess's breath caught, just for a heartbeat, but she quickly masked it with scorn. "You are mistaken, human. I do not fear you. I do not fear your kind. You are a fading spark in the endless night." He tilted his head, his grin sharper now. "Then why are you here? Princess alone, speaking to me in secret. A queen in waiting does not waste time on sparks, unless she fears the fire." Her lips pressed into a thin line, her hands tightened at her side. She wanted to strike him, to silence him, yet something within her held back, something she did not understand, and that unsettled her more than his defiance. The silence stretched, heavy, dangerous. Then she spoke again, softer, yet filled with steel. "You will kneel, human. You will kneel before me, or you will be broken piece by piece until nothing remains." The soldier leaned back, the chains rattled, his eyes never leaving hers, his grin refusing to fade. "Break me then, but remember this, princess. Every time I refuse, every time I grin, I win. And you lose." Her chest tightened, Her pride screamed, yet her heart trembled, for in his words she heard not arrogance but truth, and truth was far heavier than pride. The guards entered, waiting for her command, the air thick with tension. She raised her hand, then paused. Her eyes locked on his. His grin burned into her mind. She turned sharply, her voice cold. "Take him to the trials." The guards obeyed, dragging him out once again. But even as he was pulled away, his grin remained. And in that grin, the princess saw something she could not unsee. Defiance stronger than fear. A will sharper than steel. A spirit that could not be chained, and in the silent corner of her heart, though she hated the thought, she wondered if perhaps this human, this grinning soldier, was not her prisoner at all, but her greatest test clash of wills. The chamber of trials was vast. Its walls curved like the inside of a great dome, the air heavy with the smell of burned metal. Strange glowing symbols crawled across the floor like living fire, and above, alien nobles sat high in their seats, looking down as if they were gods watching a game, their voices low with excitement, eager to see the human break. At the center stood the soldier, still chained, though his back was straight, his grin steady, his eyes alive with quiet fire. Around him the guards formed a circle, their weapons drawn, their armor shining under the blue glow of the chamber, and in front of them, on her high throne, sat the princess, her silver skin shining, her crown glowing faintly with restless light. Her voice rang out, sharp and cold, "You stand in the chamber of will. Human, here your spirit will be tested, here you will kneel, or here you will fall." Her words echoed strong, proud, yet inside her chest her heart beat faster, for though she demanded obedience, she still carried the memory of his grin, a memory that gnawed at her pride. The crowd cheered. Some shouted for his death, others laughed, certain the human would break like glass. After all, humans were weak in their eyes, fragile, soft, a species good for labor and little else. None believed he would last, and yet, when the trial began, it was not the soldier who looked weak, but those watching. The first trial was pain. Beams of burning light struck his skin, scorching and slicing. His body trembled, sweat dripped down, yet his grin never faded. He gritted his teeth but did not scream. Instead, he laughed low and sharp, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Is this all?" He mocked. "I have felt worse from hunger." Gasps spread through the nobles. Some leaned forward in disbelief. Others hissed in anger. Never had they seen a human mock the empire under pain. Never had they seen defiance so raw, so fearless. The second trial was fear. The chamber filled with shifting illusions, monstrous shapes, shadows of death, screams of dying voices, the air thick with horror, the kind that could break minds in seconds. Yet the soldier stood firm, his eyes sharp, his breath steady. He whispered to himself, "I have seen true death. I have seen friends fall and worlds burn. This is nothing." His grin returned, wider, brighter, and once again he laughed, the sound echoing across the chamber, cutting through the illusions like a blade. The visions flickered, weakened, until at last they vanished, leaving only the soldier standing scarred but unbroken. The third trial was despair. The princess herself stood and stepped down, her presence filling the hall with cold power. She looked him in the eyes and spoke, her voice heavy with command. "Kneel, human, you cannot win. Your people are weak. Your worlds will fall, no army will come for you. You are nothing but one broken man." Her words cut deep. Sharper than blades, they were truth wrapped in poison, yet the soldier's grin did not fade. Instead, he lifted his head higher, his voice strong, steady. "You are wrong. Princess, I am not one, I am all of us. Every human carries the fire. We may be broken, we may bleed, but we never kneel, not to fear, not to empires, not even to you." The chamber grew silent. The words hung heavy. The nobles stared in disbelief. The guard shifted uneasily. The princess's chest tightened. Her pride burned, yet deep inside she felt something she refused to name. Respect. Her crown flickered. Restless, as if sensing her conflict, she wanted to strike him down, to silence his grin, yet she could not move, her heart chained by the weight of his defiance. And in that moment she realized the truth she hated most. The clash of wills was not between chains and freedom, but between her pride and his spirit was winning. The nobles began to whisper louder now, their voices sharp. "He is dangerous," some said. "Kill him," others demanded. "End this before his words spread." Fear rippled through them. Fear of what this one human represented. Fear that perhaps their empire was not eternal. Fear that perhaps humans were more than dust in the void. The princess raised her hand. The hall fell silent, her voice steady but cold. "Enough. The trials are finished," she declared. Her eyes locked on the soldier, his grin still burning. "You will not kneel, not today, but you will," she promised, though inside she knew her words were weaker than they should have been. The guards dragged him back, but his grin lingered in the chamber like a shadow that refused to fade. His words echoed in every noble's mind. His defiance spread like fire. And though they laughed on the outside, inside many trembled. The princess returned to her throne. Her hands tight, her breath sharp. She hated him. She despised him. And yet she could not ignore him. For in the clash of wills, it was not she who felt victorious. It was the chained human, the soldier who grinned, and as the chamber emptied, she whispered to herself words she would never admit aloud. Why does he not fear me? Why does his will burn brighter than mine? The clash had only begun, and the storm it would awaken was far greater than the princess or her empire could imagine. The secret revealed. The night inside the alien palace was not silent. The walls hummed with strange energy. The air glowed faintly with blue light, and the watchful eyes of guards never rested. Yet in one lonely chamber, a single human soldier sat chained, calm, his grin still carved on his face, as if nothing in the galaxy could touch him. The trials had ended. The nobles laughed, but their laughter had been nervous. Their eyes uneasy. The human had not broken. He had not screamed. He had not begged. Instead, he had stood stronger with every test. And now whispers spread through the palace halls like wildfire, whispers that unsettled even the proudest alien lords. The princess could not sleep. Her crown pulsed faintly with restless light. Her heart burned with anger, yet her mind echoed with his words, "I am not one. I am all of us." She remembered his grin, his calm, his defiance. And for the first time she wondered if perhaps her empire had underestimated the species they called weak unable to hold her questions. She entered his chamber. The guards hesitated, but she waved them away. Her steps echoed softly as she walked closer, her eyes fixed on him. He lifted his head at once, his grin already waiting as if he knew she would come. "You smile still," she said, her voice sharp though softer than before. "After pain, after fear, after despair, you still refuse to kneel. Why?" The soldier tilted his head, his voice calm. "Because kneeling would mean giving you victory, and I do not give victory." Her eyes narrowed. "You are only one man, chained, surrounded, powerless. Why hold on to a fight you cannot win?" The soldier chuckled, his grin widening. "Because I am not one. Princess, I told you before, I am not alone. Humanity does not send soldiers to lose. We send them to remind the galaxy that we exist, that we endure, that we rise." She frowned, her heart unsettled. "Your people are scattered. Your worlds are weak, your fleets broken. There is no army waiting for you." But the soldier leaned closer, his voice low, dangerous. "You think you see the whole picture, but you only see what your empire wants to see. Humans are more than scattered colonies, more than broken fleets. We are fire hidden in the dark, growing, waiting, and when the time is right, we will burn bright enough to blind you." Her breath caught. Her pride trembled. She wanted to call him a liar, yet the certainty in his eyes struck deeper than any blade. He was not bluffing. He believed every word, and that belief shook her. The silence stretched, heavy, dangerous. Then she whispered, almost against her will, "You speak of rebellion, of war, yet you are alone here, one man against an empire. Why smile?" He grinned wider. "Because every empire believes it is unbreakable, until the day it cracks, and I have already seen the crack in yours." Her crown flickered. As if alive with her doubt, her lips pressed tight. She wanted to strike him, to silence him, yet she asked instead, "What crack?" The soldier's voice grew sharper, his eyes burning. "You, princess, you are the crack. You seek obedience, but you hesitate. You demand kneeling, but you question why I do not. You carry pride, but also doubt, and doubt spreads faster than fire. Your nobles saw it, your guards felt it. They saw you hesitate, and they will not forget." Her chest tightened. His words hit harder than any trial. She had thought her hesitation was hidden, but he had seen it, and worse, he had spoken it aloud, a truth she did not want to face, yet could not deny. Her anger surged. Her hand lifted as if to strike him, but she froze, his grin steady, his eyes locked on hers, unafraid, daring her. And she realized again the terrible truth. Killing him would not silence him, it would only prove him right. It would make him a story, a spark, a martyr, and that was far more dangerous than his living grin. The silence grew heavy, the air thick until she spoke through clenched teeth. "You are clever, human, too clever for your kind. But do not think your words will save you. When the time comes, you will kneel. He leaned back, his grin calm, his voice like iron. "And when the time comes, Princess, you will remember this moment. And you will wonder if you should have listened instead of threatened." Her heart trembled. Though her face remained cold, she turned sharply, her crown glowing brighter. She ordered the guards to double his chains, double the watch, but even as she walked away, she could not silence the echo of his words, nor erase the fire in his grin in her chambers. She stared into the mirror of silver glass, her reflection proud, unbroken. Yet inside her thoughts swirled like storms. His voice would not fade. "I am not one. I am all of us, and in the shadows of the galaxy, beyond the sight of her empire." His words were already true. Humanity was stirring. Alliances whispered in silence. Fires hidden in the dark, waiting for the day they would rise. The secret had been revealed, and though the princess refused to admit it, her heart already knew. This soldier was not just a prisoner. He was the first crack in an empire that believed itself eternal. Fire and fury. The chamber of trials was not enough. The nobles demanded more. Their voices rose like a storm. "The human defies the crown," they hissed. He must be broken before all. And so a new stage was prepared. An arena of fire and stone. A place where slaves were tested. Where criminals were torn apart and where the crowd came to see blood. The princess agreed. Though her heart was restless, she told herself it was duty. She told herself it was pride. Yet in truth, she wanted to see him bend. She wanted to erase the grin that haunted her thoughts, the grin that refused to fade even in her dreams. The soldier was led into the arena, chains on his wrists, guards at his side. Above him, thousands of alien eyes watched. The nobles in their golden seats, the common people in the shadows beyond, all of them waiting to see the human die. Their laughter loud, their voices cruel. Yet he walked as if he carried no chains, as if the crowd was nothing but wind. The gate slammed behind him, and from the opposite side, heavy doors opened with a roar. The ground shook as a beast entered, tall as 3 men, its body covered in black scales, its mouth filled with teeth like knives, its eyes glowing red, smoke pouring from its nostrils. It was bred for war, bred for killing, bred to break the spirit of any who faced it. The crowd cheered. The nobles leaned forward, but the soldier only grinned, his voice low but steady. "I've seen worse," he muttered. His eyes sharp, his body steady, his will unshaken, the beast charged, its roar echoing across the arena. The ground trembled, chains rattled on his wrists, but instead of fear, the soldier moved with calm. He stepped aside, fast, precise. The beast struck stone instead of flesh, the impact shaking the ground, dust rising like smoke. The crowd gasped. Some shouted in anger, others in shock. The human had not been crushed, he had not screamed. Instead, he had moved with the sharpness of a predator. His grin brighter now, his eyes fixed on the beast, studying, waiting. The princess leaned forward, her crown glowing faintly, her heart caught between fury and fascination. Every part of her demanded his defeat, yet part of her burned with unwilling respect. The beast roared again. It lunged, claws like blades tearing the air. The soldier dodged once more, rolling across the dirt, his chains cutting his skin, blood dripping, yet his eyes never wavered, his grin never broke. "You're strong," he whispered, "but not smarter than me." The crowd shouted louder, some in anger, some in awe. The nobles whispered to one another. "This is not a normal human," they said. "This one is different." Fear crept into their voices, though they tried to hide it. The beast lunged a 3rd time, its jaws snapping, its roar shaking the stone. And this time the soldier moved not to dodge, but to strike. He leapt forward, chains still on his wrists. But chains could be weapons, too. He swung them hard, the metal links smashing against the beast's eye. It howled in pain, stumbling, blood pouring like fire from the wound. The arena fell silent for a heartbeat. Shock spread through the nobles. The guards, even the princess herself, a human chained, had drawn blood from one of their war beasts. The soldier stood tall, his chest heaving, his body scarred, his grin sharp as a blade. He raised his chained wrists high, the blood dripping from the links, his voice echoing loud enough for the arena to hear. "Chains do not break me, they arm me," the crowd erupted. Half in fury, half in awe, some shouted for his death. Others shouted his name, though they did not know it. The arena was divided, and that division was more dangerous than the beast itself. The princess's heart thundered. Her pride burned. She wanted to order his death at once. Yet she hesitated because her eyes saw not just defiance, but victory raw and undeniable. And killing him now would not erase it. It would only make it stronger. The beast staggered. Blind in one eye, rage filling its body, it charged again. But the soldier was ready. He moved with precision, every step like a dance. Every motion filled with will. He swung his chains again, striking its jaw, then its throat, using the beast's size against it, until finally it crashed into the stone wall, its roar breaking into silence, its body still. The arena froze. Every alien stared. Stunned, one human, had done what they thought impossible. He had beaten their beast, not with weapons, not with power, but with spirit, with will, with fire. The soldier stood tall, blood on his skin, dirt on his body, his grin burning brighter than ever. His eyes lifted to the throne where the princess sat, and he whispered, though the whole arena seemed to hear, "I do not kneel." The princess's chest tightened. Her hands gripped the arms of her throne. She should have declared him broken, should have ordered his death. Yet the words refused to leave her lips. Instead, she sat frozen, staring at the human who had turned chains into weapons, who had turned death into triumph, who had turned her trial into his victory. The crowd began to chant, not in unity but in division, some calling for his death, others calling for his survival. And the empire that had always been one voice now sounded like many. Uncertain, shaken, cracked, the princess rose, her voice steady though her heart trembled. "Enough," she declared. "The trial is over." But even as she spoke, she knew the truth. The trial had not broken him. It had broken something else, something far more dangerous. It had broken the illusion of human weakness, and as the soldier was dragged away, his grin still burning, the fire he had lit in that arena spread silently through every noble, every guard, every witness, a fire the princess knew she could not control. The empire had wanted fire and fury, and now it had both, but not in the way they had expected. The princess's choice. The arena was silent long after the beast had fallen. The crowd had scattered. The nobles had left in restless whispers, but the echo of the human's grin remained, sharp as a blade, louder than any roar. The princess sat in her throne long after the seats were empty, her crown glowing faintly, her thoughts caught in a storm she could not silence. She had seen him bleed. She had seen him chained, yet she had also seen him stand tall, unbroken, unbent, and worse. She had felt something she could not allow. Respect. The kind of respect she should never give a human. The kind of respect that threatened her pride, her duty. Her empire in the great hall, her advisors argued, their voices sharp, their fear louder than their reason. "Kill him now," one shouted. "Make him an example before the whispers spread," another demanded. "He is dangerous, princess. His defiance weakens us. His victory emboldens the slaves." Their words pressed against her like heavy chains, pulling her toward the choice she was expected to make. Yet her heart resisted, for she remembered his words, his fire, the way he had turned chains into weapons, the way he had turned fear into laughter. "I do not kneel," he had said, and even now the words echoed inside her chest. Refusing to fade, at last she raised her hand, silencing the court, her voice steady though her thoughts were not. "Leave me," she commanded, and they obeyed, though uneasily, their eyes filled with suspicion, their whispers following as they departed, until she stood alone in the silence of the hall. She walked through the corridors, her steps light but restless, until she came to his chamber once more. The guards saluted, but she waved them away. The door opened, and there he was, sitting on the cold floor, chained, scarred, yet still smiling as if nothing in the galaxy could touch him. "You should be dead," she said, her voice sharper than she felt. "The beast should have torn you apart. The fire should have broken you, yet you live and you grin. Why?" He lifted his head, his eyes calm, his grin steady. "Because death is not the end, princess. Not for me, not for my kind. Every scar is proof that we survived, and every survival is victory." Her chest tightened. His words struck too deep. She stepped closer, her crown flickering with faint light. "You think yourself strong, but you are still a prisoner. Your life is mine to take, your fate mine to decide," the soldier chuckled softly, shaking his head. "No, princess, you can kill me, but you cannot decide my fate. My fate is already written in every human heart. My death would not end me. It would begin something you cannot stop." Her breath caught. Her anger flared. "You speak as if you are more than one man, but you are alone here. No army waits beyond these walls." His grin widened, his voice lower, steadier. "I am never alone. Every word I say carries to ears you cannot silence. Every act of defiance is a seed, and seeds grow even in the darkest soil. You have already seen it, your nobles whispered. Your guards hesitated, the crowd divided. And it was not your empire they believed in. It was me. A chained human. Smiling in the face of death, she froze. Her pride battled with truth. Her heart trembled. She wanted to deny him, to call him liar. Yet she had seen it too. She had felt the shift. The cracks in her empire's voice. The fire spreading where none should burn. For the first time in her life, she asked a question she had never spoken. A question that tasted of weakness yet felt heavier than silence. Why do humans refuse? Why do you not kneel when others would bow? Why do you laugh when others would weep? The soldier's grin softened, but his eyes burned brighter. Because kneeling is death. Princess, not the death of the body, but the death of the soul, and humans would rather die standing than live on their knees. We carry our dead in our hearts. We carry their laughter, their pain, their dreams, and so long as one human stands, humanity stands. Her chest ached. Her mind swirled. She turned sharply, her crown glowing brighter, yet her voice wavered. You cannot sway me, human. I will not betray my empire for your words. He leaned forward, his chains rattling, his grin daring. Then do not betray it. But remember this, if you kill me, I become a story. And stories are stronger than crowns, stronger than empires. You will make me immortal in the hearts of the very people you fear. The silence pressed heavy, her breath sharp. She hated him. She despised his grin, his words, his fire. Yet she could not erase them, could not silence them. They burned inside her like truth, unwanted but undeniable. The guards returned at her call, their eyes waiting for her command. One word could end him. One word could erase the grin. Yet when she opened her mouth, the word refused to come. Instead, she said, "Take him back unharmed." The guards obeyed. Though their eyes widened in disbelief, the soldier was dragged away once more, his grin still burning, his voice echoing in her mind. One human standing means all humanity stands. The princess stood alone in the chamber, her hands trembling, her heart torn. She had chosen not to kill him, but in sparing him she had chosen something else, something far more dangerous. She had chosen doubt, and doubt was the beginning of change. That night she stared at the stars through her high window. Her empire stretched across them like a crown of fire, yet all she saw was his grin, and all she heard was his voice, and she knew the truth she could not admit aloud. Her choice had already changed the future, and there was no turning back, the turning point. The palace was restless, the whispers of nobles louder than drums. Fear and anger spread like smoke. The human soldier had survived the trials, had faced the beast, had mocked death, and still he lived worse. The princess had spared him twice. And the court demanded answers. In the great hall the nobles gathered, their voices sharp, their pride wounded. He must die, they cried. He is poison. His words spread doubt. His survival weakens the crown. Some shouted for his execution. Others demanded he be made an example. Their fear turned into fury, and all of it pressed against the princess like a storm. She sat high on her throne, her silver skin glowing in the light, her crown restless with pulsing energy, yet inside her chest her heart trembled. She looked calm, proud, but her thoughts swirled like fire, for she knew the truth that none of them dared speak aloud. The human had already won, not with weapons, not with armies, but with will, with a grin that refused to fade. The soldier was brought into the hall once more, chains rattling on his wrists, scars across his body, but still he stood tall, still his grin burned. The crowd hissed and jeered, but his eyes never lowered. His spirit never bent. He looked up at the princess, and for a moment it was as if the two of them stood alone in the galaxy. One noble stepped forward, his voice like venom. "Princess, end this mockery. Kill him now before the empire loses face, before his fire spreads," others cheered, pounding their fists, their voices echoing. "Kill him! Kill him!" The princess raised her hand. The hall fell silent, her eyes locked on the soldier, her voice cold, sharp, yet trembling deep inside. "You stand before me once more, human, still chained, still proud, still smiling, but this will be the last time. Your defiance has gone far enough." The soldier tilted his head, his grin steady, his voice calm. "You want me dead? But you fear what happens when I die. That is why I still live, not because you spared me, but because your empire cannot afford my death." A ripple spread through the hall. The nobles shifted uneasily, his words too sharp, too true. They glanced at one another with doubt in their eyes, doubt that had never existed before. The princess felt it too, and her chest ached, for she hated that he was right. Her crown pulsed, her pride demanded blood, yet her heart whispered caution. She stepped down from her throne, Closer to him, her eyes narrowed, her voice low but clear. Why do you fight a war you cannot win? Why do you laugh in the face of death? What do you see that I do not? The soldier's grin widened, his words slow, heavy, each one sharp as iron. I see tomorrow, princess, and tomorrow does not belong to empires. Tomorrow belongs to those who refuse to kneel. Tomorrow belongs to humanity. The hall froze. Silence stretched heavy. His words cut through pride and fear alike. The nobles trembled, the guards shifted. Even the air seemed to grow colder. The princess's heart thundered, for in that moment she realized the truth. If she killed him, he would become a legend. If she spared him, he would become a symbol, and either way he had already changed the galaxy. She lifted her hand. The guards tightened their grip. The crowd held its breath. This was the moment, the turning point. The choice that would echo across stars. Her voice rang out. Strong, clear, unshaken. No, she said. He will not die. The hall erupted, shouts of fury, cries of disbelief. Nobles standing in outrage. Treason, they roared. Madness, they screamed. But she silenced them with a single glance. Her crown blazing with light, her voice sharper than steel. He lives, and he remains under my protection. The soldier's grin grew brighter, not of mockery but of victory. His eyes locked on hers, and though no words were spoken, the meaning was clear. This was not the end. This was the beginning. The guards dragged him away once more, though now they looked uneasy. For they carried not a prisoner but a symbol, one that even chains could not weaken, one that even an empire could not erase that night. The princess stood alone at her window, the stars burning like fire in the endless dark. Her empire stretched across them, yet it felt smaller than ever, she whispered to herself, her voice trembling. What have I done? Far away beyond her sight, whispers of the human's defiance spread faster than light. Slaves spoke of him in hushed voices. Rebels repeated his words. I do not kneel. And across the galaxy seeds began to grow. Seeds of fire, seeds of fury, seeds of freedom. The princess had made her choice, not to kill but to spare, not to silence but to let the fire burn. And in that choice the fate of her empire shifted, perhaps forever. The soldier had grinned, and the galaxy would never forget.